Hello witches and welcome back to Activist Witch, where we discuss witchcraft and activism. You can call me Isha, my pronouns are she, they. And in today's video we're gonna do a video response to the fail tales started off by Bente the Norse witch, which I love. I have so many fails, I have so many things that I'm not good at. And very cleverly, as Bente pointed out, and I was recently talking to my friend Sophia about it as well, I think it's very important to share this kind of thing, because otherwise we can catch the pitfall of aspirational watching and I wish I was that, and believe me, envy is never worth it because you never know the full story. So this is how you get an insight on the fuller story that usually the systems which we are in wouldn't like you to know, because aspiration is how it gets you to do things, basically. So without any further ado, let's get into it. But before we get started, let me remind you that I've opened a Ko-fi, which is an alternative to Patreon that takes less from creators. And on there you can do a one-off donation, a monthly donation, or even get a tarot reading with me, Italian style. The low-income option starts at £5. And for the foreseeable future, any income that I get from my tarot readings goes directly to support Kuchus to Gaza, who are part of the mutual aid groups who help Palestinian people relocate to Egypt. So if you'd like to support me there, thank you so very much. I love this idea. I said before, I think it's very important to share not only what we are good at or make people wish that they were like us or whatever kind of thing. No, it's important to say why we suck. Because it's very rare that we get access to that, but it happens to everyone. And no narrative, no story needs to be aspirational for some reason, so they never quite tell you that, and they risk giving you a skewed perception of reality. So here we are to completely dispel that skewed perception of reality. First thing that I completely suck at: reading. I mentioned it before, I am dyslexic, and there's this belief, which I understand where it comes from, that to be a proper witch you need to have a completely 360 degrees understanding of the context you're working with, of the different traditions, of the different ways to do things, which I completely agree and understand, but it is slightly ableist in the sense that what if you are not great at reading? And that's absolutely my case. I think in 2 years, almost coming to 2 years of practice, I've read less than 10 witchcraft books, like cover to cover, less than 5 realistically, and it's hard. I learn in other ways, but I wanted to point this out because I mentioned it in my Q&A as well. I think people have this very wrong perception of me that for some reason I'm supposed to be well read because of eloquence or stuff. No. I explain where that comes from. Because my native language is Italian and it's a Neo-Latin language, a lot of words that I haven't necessarily learned in English, sometimes I guess, and I guess the Englishized version of the Latin word. Sometimes that works because it's actually a word that exists and it's sort of an archaic word, so it makes me sound somewhat clever, but it's not because I am well read, it's just because my first language is Italian. So I just wanted to dispel that idea that, oh, you must read so much, you might know so much. No. I really don't. If I know things, I think it's because I listen to a lot of other people, I watch a lot of video essays. I don't even listen to those many podcasts though. I can't do audiobooks either because I actually need the audio and the writing, so I would need an audiobook with subtitles. It's weird. So I'm kind of resistant at information's getting to me, and I wanted to dispel this myth that I must be so well read, because I'm not. I am good at skimming, and Raven is much better than me at reading, so a lot of times Raven has read something and then we have a discussion about it and I learn from them. Pendulums, I absolutely suck at pendulum, and not for lack of trying. Pendulums, along with tarot, it's something that I've seen around in my childhood a lot. You know, I mentioned that in my village, lost in the countryside of northwest Italy, there was a lot of superstition. There were 2 cartomancers, and when you chose one in the village, you had chosen your football team, basically. And along with tarot, there were a lot of pendulums, to the point that when I started to practice in my adult life, and I was just looking around for witchy things, I saw the pendulum, specifically the brass pendulums with the chamber, that is exactly the kind of pendulum that I used to see around the cartomancers in my childhood. So I wanted one because I remember sort of playing with it, opening it, trying to wonder why it was actually assembled. So I get one and I try everything. I try cleansing it, I try consecrating it, I try putting crystals in the chamber, I try to put herbs in the chamber, I try to put herbs, crystalline oils in the chamber, and it doesn't work. And not, again, for lack of trying. One of the things that I used to do, sometimes I do TV extra work, so I'm the person in the background, if there is a TV production in Cardiff, basically. And that is a job that basically is a lot of waiting around. So a lot of my reading at times, but again, I don't read that much. But tarot and pendulum, I genuinely spent days like that trying. And no. And I can say no because A, Raven does work with pendulums and they are outstandingly amazing at it. I have seen things happen with a pendulum in their hands that doesn't make sense with physics. So I know that pendulums work, they just don't work with me. And also, last year, I was visiting my friend Freddie, hello Freddie, in London, and he's a quite powerful witch, and so is his partner. And I mentioned to them that pendulums don't. So their partner was like, okay, you know what, let's try with a necklace, let's start with something. They try, they take their necklace, they do the tell me yes, tell me no, it works with them. And then they ask the pendulum, would you like to work with Isha? And the pendulum supposedly says yes. And then they give me the necklace, and the necklace stands still. And it just does that. So I don't know. I do wonder if it's because I put a lot of control. I try to stay very still, and the entire point of pendulum is the subtle shakes and movements that still come from your body, but supposedly then are influenced by the universe. And because I am a very skeptical witch, that is something that I try to control. And so I try to stay so still that actually I manage for nothing to get to the pendulum. But yeah, pendulums are not my thing. And it pains me. It pains me. It does pain me. Energy. I absolutely suck at energy sensing. I am insanely jealous. Not quite jealous. I look up to, though, a lot to people that just sense or see or know or can analyze the energy of a crystal, of a plant, because they expand their energy and it comes back and they can tell. People, that's air to me. That's what it is. And it's, again, not for lack of trying. I would really love to be able to feel energy, but I haven't so far. Closest that I have got, but it's so subtle that I'm just genuinely like, do I have pins and needles or is it energy? I don't know. I read a lot in a lot of books for beginners about the exercise of the ball of energy. I think Matt Oren mentions it, or he mentions Silver Ravenwolf having this exercise, and they do this exercise with people in the room and they make this ball of energy and they throw it to people and people can grab it and feel it like a ball. Good for you. I really look up to you. It means nothing to me, and I feel such an outsider because of that. Because the entire point of sometimes, making spells and making things happen is that you put and channel your energy into it. Heart Witch also mentions a lot when she does a spell or when she charges an altar, there's all this movement that she does and she brings down the energy, and I'm like, I don't feel it. But I don't know if you've seen my video on spell casting, which is basically a how-to beginning to end of how I do a spell. That spell actually worked incredibly well, which is something that I didn't expect for a spell that I filmed. I had this idea that evidently if you film it, there's something about it that is, I don't know. You know how witches tend to be very protectionist and you don't actually show what you do. That was literally a spell that I did. I didn't do it for the camera. I just happened to film it and it worked. And it's still working. It's impressive. So if you ever want, by the way, a success and prosperity spell, I will send you to the spellcraft video, because that's literally A to Z how I made a spell and it worked. And even then, I had my hands around the candles trying to charge them with my energy, and I kept repeating words in my head, but it's not like I felt anything. And I think it's the entire point, actually, of Psychic Witch by Matt Oren. At the beginning, he talks about witches that have noirs instead of clairs, so they have these blind spots. And so the idea of Psychic Witch entirely is to bring together the ability to manipulate energy with the ability of feeling it. And the feeling it is the psychic part, and the witch is the part of manipulating. I think I'm just a witch. I'm not a psychic witch. No, I'm a powerful psychic witch. I'm a powerful psychic witch. I'm a powerful psychic witch. Because your words matter. Yeah, kink magic works too, by the way. And then, in fourth position, we have meditation. So, the premise is I am not good at meditation because I am not good at standing still, taking time off of doing things and just let the world go by. And I hear that that's an issue that a lot of witches have. However, and here's the kick of what I can bring to you, I have been told that if you've had trauma, it actually makes sense that you don't meditate or you're not good at meditation and you shouldn't try because
if you're someone who downregulates your system, like your parasympathetic nervous system, to prevent like anxiety and panic and stuff, so you find yourself feeling very muted and down and like low energy all the time, then meditation is something that's going to make that worse.
Okay, I can do this, because if you are someone that already downregulates to try and keep calm and avoid like intrusive thoughts and anxiety and things like that, if you go on to meditate and try to bring that level of your parasympathetic system even lower, then you actually, no. I'll ask Raven to give me documentation about this and I'll link it down in the description below. I don't quite get it, but it works that way. So if you suck at meditation like I do, don't worry, it might just be because it's actually not necessarily good for you. So a walk in the greenery, it counts as much, but the silence and the sitting still and your mind can wander to very bad stuff, it kind of makes sense that you don't necessarily do it. The last thing is confidence, and I've added it because Raven said so. Okay, in my head, it was, I am not good at messages or talking with my deities or with my ancestors. This entire thing about communicating beyond the veil, for the same reason of I can't feel energy. I just don't have a lot of perception of that. However, I am an ungrateful little witch because it's true that I've actually got sign and messages before. After a while, I tend to discount them because there wasn't a physical manifestation. It's not actually true. There was a physical manifestation. Like, look at the little cockerel there. That is a physical manifestation of my grandfather. I actually mentioned it in my ancestors video if you want more, but in one day I found 2 cockerels. And my grandfather's nickname was the cockerel. The family nickname was the cockerels. So yeah, the point that we try to make is, no, I don't necessarily lack messages. I lack the confidence to take on the messages and remember that they were messages. So I'm taking this and I'm bringing it to you in case you have the same issue, because sometimes we need to give ourselves credit. It's incredibly hard, but I do worry in a way that the need for confirmation, like a lot of people are like, oh, I can't put myself to do a spell until I have a confirmation that magic exists. And that sort of puts us in a vicious circle of then it doesn't matter what kind of proof you have, you will move the goalpost more and more until, I don't know, your ancestors manifest physically in a body in your living room and other people see them and there are pictures and there's a video, even if they are dead people. So it's the kind of thing. I think that I have done that. I think that once I get a message, I then discount it and then I want more and then I want more and then I want more. And that can be a vicious circle that doesn't help our own confidence building, even though there are all these little things that would make sense, do make sense. Don't be an ungrateful little witch. So yeah, I'm sharing that in case that's a problem for you as well. Oh my god, that was it, short and sweet. Thank you so much, Bente, for giving us this idea, because I genuinely, again, think that it's so important to share what doesn't work. I know that there's this idea of aspirational, I've talked about it in Capitalism and Cottagecore, but realistically, especially if you want to do witchcraft, if you want to have a practice, to know that other people are not good at something, or the path that they needed to go on to then develop something, I think it's much more important than just talking about, oh yeah, I talk with my spirit guides all the time and I do this and I do that, and you don't. I think that this is incredibly valuable. So thank you so much, Bente, for having this idea, and thank you so much for giving me an excuse to talk about these things. And until the next video, I really hope that we can hex the patriarchy together, because there's a lot of need for it.